Is there any better way to start a Saturday morning than with cartoons? But there are some episodes you aren't going to see on Nickelodeon or anywhere else. Yep, today we're taking a look at kids' TV episodes that proved too controversial for the small screen. From celebrity appearances that aged like milk to adult content that should never have got past the censors, here are the craziest cartoon episodes that were banned. Porygon. In 1997, Pokemania was in full swing in Japan. While the rest of the world wouldn't get their first exposure to the anime TV series until the following year, it seemed the Pocket Monsters could do no wrong back home. That is, until the fateful day that the episode Electric Soldier Porygon aired. The episode itself was wholly uncontroversial. Ash and the gang find themselves battling the villainous Team Rocket inside cyberspace with the help of the artificial Pokemon Porygon. But then something happens which caused chaos across Japanese households. Near the end of the episode, some cyber missiles are launched at our heroes, which Pikachu heroically destroys using a Thunderbolt attack. Only when the missiles are destroyed, rapidly flashing blue and red lights appear to mark the event. In certain people, flashing strobe lights of a certain frequency can cause an excessive response from the brain, triggering epileptic seizures. And because of the frame rate of the TV show, the lights were at the perfect frequency for this. Yes, this Pokemon episode wound up causing the hospitalization of over 600 kids. Many suffered full-blown seizures, while others reported seizure symptoms such as blindness, nausea, and convulsions. And that's without mentioning the thousands of others with symptoms who didn't go to the hospital. Yeesh. The episode was never aired again, and never dubbed into English. This was obviously a stain on the brand, so the Pokemon Company needed to do something about it. Did they punish Pikachu for his actions? Pfft, not likely. Instead, it was poor old Porygon that got the shaft. The creature and its evolutions were never given a featured role in the series ever again. Over 1,000 episodes later, and Porygon is relegated to nothing more than occasional background appearances, all to cover up the crimes of the Golden Child. Porygon did nothing wrong, and I, for one, am tired of pretending he did. Dexter's Dirty Language. If you grew up in the 90s, I'm sure you're aware of how popular Cartoon Network's Dexter's Laboratory was. The show follows boy genius Dexter, as he gets up to a whole load of science-y hijinks alongside his annoying sister Dee Dee. But one particular adventure of theirs was deemed far too shocking for TV. I'm talking about the infamous Rude Removal. In this episode, Dexter invents the Rude Removal system, which splits him and his sister into two versions, one polite pair and one very impolite pair. The nasty doppelgangers are crude, aggressive, and foul-mouthed. The crass clones go on to smash up Dexter's lab, berate his mom, and even insult her cooking.
Well, what do you think, Dexter?
I think it tastes like
Jeez, that's a little much, huh? Well, but that, implied language is something else, and that's exactly why the story got pulled from air. Cartoon Network thought that all the cursing was just too much. I mean, sure, it's definitely shocking, but it is censored, so personally I don't see the issue. Heck, SpongeBob did a similar episode a few years later, and it aired fine, although with some controversy.
Hi, Squidward! How the are ya?
Nice day, isn't it, Squidward?
But back to Dexter. If anything, the most shocking part of Rude Removal is the title card, which shows Dexter mooning the camera and Dee Dee flipping at the bird. But what do you think? Was Rude Removal worthy of being, removed? Are censored swears still inappropriate for kids? Let me know down in the comments. Eight-legged freak. I don't like spiders. There's no way something should have that many legs. But a lot of the time, spiders are nothing to fear. Something British children's cartoon Peppa Pig tried to convey in an episode from 2004 entitled Mr. Skinny Legs, only it backfired. Hard. In the episode, Peppa befriends a spider. See, UK spiders are highly unlikely to bite. Even if they did, there aren't any deadly species in the country. But that's certainly not the case somewhere else the episode was aired, Australia. See where I'm going with this? Encouraging Australian kids to play with the many highly venomous and sometimes deadly spiders in the country is reckless and irresponsible. What's more, the episode even has Peppa playing with her arachnid friend and tucking it into bed. Just imagine a little rugrat watching this episode, then running outside, stumbling on a Sydney funnel web, one of the deadliest in the world. Sure enough, after receiving complaints from angry parents, the episode was pulled off air and axed online. Makes sense. The last thing you want to do is encourage kids to get in danger. But I'm going to encourage some fantastic behavior and tell you to like and subscribe. That way, you'll never miss out on more awesome videos like this one. All done? Nice. Let's get back to more banned episodes. Banned in China. South Park is no stranger to controversy. Its crude and often offensive humor spares nobody. Naturally, this has led to the show getting a ton of flack, perhaps most notably from the Chinese government. That's right. The episode Banned in China aired in 2019 and took aim at the country's penchant for censorship. In it, one of the main characters, Randy Marsh, is arrested and subjected to communist re-education alongside Winnie the Pooh. What? See, hilariously, Winnie is censored across Chinese social media after jokes were made comparing the friendly bear to the country's president, Xi Jinping. Jinping, as you can gather, is a sensitive man, and this episode shines a light on the awful way China treats its citizens, makes fun of its censorship laws, and heavily features a banned character in it. So, is it any surprise that it was banned in China? No, it's not. But things went even further. The episode was ultimately responsible for South Park being entirely scrubbed from the country. Seriously, online, every mention of the series was removed. Episodes were taken down, forums were closed, and social media posts were hidden. Such a draconian response is par for the course in China's heavily controlled society, though. So frankly, it's surprising South Park survived there as long as it did. Bad. The Simpsons is the longest-running animated series of all time, and as such, has been no stranger to controversy. But one episode of the hit sitcom was entirely unproblematic the day it aired in 1991, only to be banned outright later, in 2019. The episode is called Stark Raving Dad. So, what's the sitch? Well, in it, Homer gets sent to a mental institution where he meets Leon Kompowski, a man who believes he's the king of pop, Michael Jackson. Hilarity ensues, and to make the scene funnier, Leon was actually voiced by Jackson. Surprise.
I'm a very popular entertainer.
Oh, of course I've heard of you. I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock not to know. What'd you say your name was?
Michael Jackson.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Well, have you heard of MTV?
Nope.
Motown?
No.
Beat It.
You beat it.
The episode was actually one of the more popular ones, but in 2019, everything changed. The documentary Leaving Neverland was released, which took a supremely critical view of MJ and reignited some nasty allegations. If you know, you know. After watching the doc, the brains behind The Simpsons opted to completely remove Stark Raving Dad from circulation. It was omitted from Disney+, axed from all the box sets going forward, and pulled from rerun schedules indefinitely. This seems like a cut-and-dry business decision to avoid association with controversy, but there may well have been something more to it. After finishing the documentary, Simpsons showrunner Al Jean came to the belief that Jackson used his appearance on the show as a tool to groom victims. There's no outright proof of this, but Jean's steadfast belief meant he stands by the decision to erase the episode from existence. A decision which proved almost as controversial as the original Jacko controversy. The beloved episode's banishment was bemoaned by fans, with some viewing it as totally unnecessary. Others expressed the importance of preserving media as a form of history, rather than erasing it. Then again, if Gene was onto something, then maybe it was the right choice to jettison Jackson's episode. It's all so complicated. If we were discussing whether we should ban any modern Simpsons episodes, I'm sure we'd all be in agreement. All of them. Teenage Mutant Ninja Trauma. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is awesome. Its kick-butt action and dynamite storytelling have improved many a childhood, although it nearly ruined a fair few too. See, the 2003 version of the show featured an episode called Insane in the Membrane. The episode follows an injured villain named Stockman, who clones himself a new body to inhabit. Only things go horribly wrong when it begins to rapidly decay, both physically and mentally. What follows is a horror movie-esque nightmare where the rotting madman rampages around the city, attempting to destroy the Turtles' ally, April O'Neil, all while hallucinating his dearly departed mother.
You were such a good boy. You had so much potential. What happened to you, baby doll?
That's not just terrifying, but also pretty heartbreaking. When the staff at Fox Broadcast Standards and Practices looked at the finished episode, they were apparently horrified at what they saw. The gruesome subject matter and scary visuals led them to lock the episode away from children's eyes. I gotta say, I might agree with them on this one. Kids are impressionable, and seeing some of the disturbing stuff on display here could easily cause some sleepless nights. That said, the episode was released in the UK and appeared on the US DVD release too. It wouldn't be aired on American TV until 2015 though. There's no word on what exactly caused Fox to change their minds or how many kids were upset after watching it, but it would have taken me a long time to recover. Beer babies. If you're a living fossil, you might remember the public service announcements from the 1980s kids' cartoons. For everyone else, they were short sections aired after an episode to heavy-handedly explain the morals of the story.
We'll tell her we did it.
Remember, it's better to tell the truth.
And that's no lie. Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Cool. By the 90s, they'd largely gone out of style, with one infamous exception. 1991's Tiny Toons Adventures episode Elephant Issues. Rather than a normal episode with a PSA at the end, the WB network decided to make the whole episode the PSA, to disastrous effect. Elephant Issues is composed of 3 segments, with one in particular, One Beer, really catching the ire of the censors. Can you guess why? That's right, One Beer is all about booze.
You mean that's beer?
Wow, I think you can see where this is going. The idea was, by showing everyone's beloved childhood characters getting absolutely off their faces, it would demonstrate the evils of alcohol to kids. So after arguing who should drink first, it's finally settled on Buster.
All right. Bottoms up.
Given that the characters in the show are all kids themselves, you can clearly see the issue here. Anyway, after they all down the brew, this happens.
I had it. That's not a very good sign.
Yep, they drunkenly steal a police car, drive it off a cliff, and, put it this way, aren't seen driving it back. What? The shocking and upsetting content of the segment caused the whole episode to be removed from syndication in the US, and it's since gone down as one of the most well-known banned cartoons ever. Or at least that's what people say. Turns out, this is a job for
Buzzkill Man.
I'm sorry, but this story is nowhere near as dramatic as people believe, because guess what? The episode was never actually banned at all. What? YouTuber Paparina did some serious sleuthing and not only uncovered a commercial for the episode, but also several TV guide listings up until 1997, a full 6 years after its first broadcast. So what gives? Well, the evidence says it all. We can't be sure when or why. But someone made the whole drama up and it spread online like wildfire. Well, that's disappointing. Thanks a lot, Buzzkill Man. Regardless, I think this episode did do its job. After watching it, I'm going teetotal. Totally inappropriate. Rocko's Modern Life is one of Nickelodeon's all-time greats. One of the reasons for its massive popularity is its penchant for adult humor, something that would get its creators in serious trouble back in 1993. Enter Leapfrogs, an episode where main character Australian wallaby Rocko is seduced by his married neighbor.
Yoo-hoo, Rocko. Could you come upstairs for a moment, please, dear? Would you zip me up, darling?
Okay. Essentially, his neighbor, the toad Bev Bighead, feels neglected by her husband and so sets her eyes on Rocko. What follows is a series of incredibly awkward sequences where she makes Rocko and us super uncomfortable.
Oh boy, documentary. Yes, why don't you join me?
No. So straight away, this is some pretty edgy content for children. So much so that parents went ballistic after catching their kids watching it. In fact, the episode drew so many complaints that Nick pulled it from air entirely. Given the premise, I kinda understand the parents' objections. Heck, maybe it did deserve the axe. I don't know how much of the adult stuff kids would understand though, so I'm not sure I agree. What do you think? Did this episode need to be banned, or were people too sensitive? Let me know down in the comments. Poke poaching. Once more, we venture into the world of Pokémon. Once more, we're in for something decidedly less kid-friendly than parents expected. 1997's The Legend of Dratini follows Ash and pals as they enter the Safari Zone, a massive Pokémon preserve. What follows sounds like standard Pokémon fare. The gang catch a bunch of monsters, face off against the dastardly Team Rocket, and ultimately save the titular Dratini from their clutches. But wait, what's so egregious about that? Well, this episode has guns in it. A lot of guns. Now, guns do feature in other Pokémon episodes, but fleetingly, or in a very over-the-top fashion. But in this episode, characters are threatened at gunpoint on 7 different occasions. Too many for them to all be censored in a global release. Heck, at one point, Ash even gets a revolver pointed directly in his face. That's right. Perhaps unsurprisingly, The Legend of Dratini never got an English dub and was never released outside of Japan. However, this created a pretty big plot hole for global viewers. See, Ash captures 30 Tauros in the Safari Zone, so when he visits them all in a later episode, it left a lot of kids confused about where the heck they'd come from. What's more, the unaired episode was the anime debut of Dratini, and because of its removal, people outside of Japan wouldn't get to see the creature in the show for another 200+ episodes. Fortunately, no one aims an AR-15 at anyone when Dratini does show back up. Nice. Creepy crabs. Some cartoon episodes were perfectly fine when they released, only to be hit with a ban decades later. Enter the 2002 SpongeBob SquarePants episode, Midlife Crustacean. In it, Mr. Krabs feels his age and is desperate to recapture his youth. So he tags along with SpongeBob and Patrick on their big night out. It turns out to be a disappointing affair though, until he hears about the last activity they have planned.
I guess you're gonna miss the panty raid.
The what? You're talking about girls, right? Girls?
Yeah.
And you're talking about raiding their dressers for their underpants, right?
Oh yeah.
Wow, so sure enough, they sneak into a girl's house to steal her underwear, only to discover that the girl is Mr. Krabs' mom. Just when you thought it couldn't get any weirder, for decades the episode aired in the US, until 2021, when Nickelodeon announced they'd made the decision to pull it from broadcast, as well as streaming services in the country. The network cited storyline concerns as the reason, but never elaborated. But come on, we all know what the issue was. Why the heck do SpongeBob and Patrick want to steal girls' underwear? It's totally out of character for these two goofy goobers to even consider something like that. So I can understand Nick's thought process in ultimately choosing to can it. Having said that, the show's had way more adult jokes in different episodes. Yep, that went straight over Little Amazed's head the first time I watched it. Regardless of what I think, midlife crustacean is still banned in the US today. Does this whole episode really deserve a ban? Or is the controversy just a load of... New York, New York. We're heading back to the town of Springfield now, but not for long, because our favorite cartoon family are off to New York. In the 1997 episode, The City of New York versus Homer Simpson, the family must travel to the Big Apple to retrieve the family car. But after the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center, the episode was pulled from air. See, the car is abandoned outside the Twin Towers, so a huge portion of the runtime takes place there. After the tragedy, the decision was made to take it from syndication, for obvious reasons. The ban was eventually lifted in 2006, although reruns would still occasionally have some content removed. Notably, a joke in the episode that, quote, "they stick all the jerks in Tower 1" has been sporadically cut in certain regions. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Bans and edits like this one were commonplace in the years following the devastating attacks. Oh, one more thing about the episode. It's commonly cited as predicting the attacks themselves, with this travel ad that appears to read 9/11. It didn't. $9 was chosen as the price because it was ridiculously cheap, and the Twin Towers were simply shown to advertise the city's landmarks. There, enjoy a little bonus from
Buzzkill Man.
Terror Tubbies. Okay, so these next two aren't technically cartoons, but they're so wild I had to include them. The BBC Kids show Teletubbies is a surreal jaunt through a psychedelic world with the titular Tubbies. Episodes featured so-called magical events, but in 1997's Seesaw, the magical event proved so terrifying it led to the episode's ban. Enter The Lion and the Bear. The episode starts as normal, then suddenly this happens.
I'm Bear, I'm the bear, and I'm coming!
And things only get more unsettling. Ugh, the thing is utterly freaky for reasons I'm not entirely sure of, but what it was hiding from gives me the heebie-jeebies even more.
I'm the scary lion with big, scary teeth.
It's even more uncanny than the bear. Then the lion gives chase. It just feels wrong, and that's probably the best way to describe the entire sequence. The stressful music, the uncanny wooden cutouts, they just don't belong in Teletubbies. Parents complained ad nauseum until the BBC pulled the episode, but the damage was already done. I know I had recurring nightmares of these SCP-looking terrors anyway. Then, a few years later, an edited version of the sequence was aired on TV. This version had altered vocal performance, cut shots, and added artificial sound effects like squeaking wheels to tone down the uncanniness.
Where's the bear? Where's the bear?
It's, a bit better, but I still never want to see one of those two knuckleheads ever again. If I just triggered your PTSD, let me know down in the comments. We can comfort each other. Newtmares. As spine-chilling as the wooden terrors from the Teletubbies are, there's another kids show that gave me even worse nightmares. Pingu. Yes, the show about the little penguin. In the 1991 episode Pingu's Dream, we follow Pingu on a trip to Snoozeville. His dream starts off innocently enough with him riding his bed around a barren landscape. He's having a great time, and so are we, until, well, This thing is supposed to be a walrus, only it's huge, has no tusks, and sports an unnerving set of human teeth. It torments Pingu and laughs maniacally at his suffering. Do I even need to tell you the problem with this episode? The walrus was deemed far too chilling for kids' TV, and the ep was banned in several countries, including the UK. Good frickin' riddance. But if you thought that was the only controversial part of Pingu, oh boy, you've seen nothing yet. There's actually a whole slew of banned or censored episodes from the show. Probably the most outrageous is Little Accidents, a 1990 story about Pingu and friends going to the bathroom. Yeah, it's as weird as it sounds. Essentially, after Pingu drinks way too much, he desperately needs to pee, but shock horror, he can't reach the toilet. With no other option, our penguin pal does the unthinkable. Jeez, from the color of that, Pingu still needs to drink more water. The focus on all that urine caused the episode to be banned in a heap of countries, including the USA. But if you ask me, the craziest thing is someone's actual job was to create and animate Pingu doing a massive leak out of clay. For shame. And on that particularly smelly note, I've had just about enough of these banned cartoons. Had you ever seen any of these episodes? Which of them blew your mind the most? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.